Headline News, I'm Lynn Vaughn. October 17th, 5:04 p.m. will be forever etched in the memories of people in Northern California. That is when an earthquake measuring 6.9 on the Richter scale struck with devastating force. At least 250 people were crushed in their cars when a section of the upper level of Interstate 880 collapsed onto the lower level during rush hour traffic. At least 2 other bridges in the Santa Cruz area collapsed. These pictures were shot just as a 30 to 40-foot section of the Bay Bridge collapsed. 3 cars were trapped. At least 1 person was killed. This quake was centered about 75 miles southeast of San Francisco along the San Andreas Fault. Its brute force had people fearing for their lives.
When this thing hit, I heard it. I heard the roar before we felt the tremor, and then when it hit, it was violent. It knocked things off desks. People fell. We all hid under the desks, and some folks were telling it was scary. It just did not stop. It was the longest 15 seconds or so in my life. I really did not think we were going to get through.
I felt very scared. I mean, because the pillars and all the support beams inside the station were all moving and everything else. It was very scary. And people running everywhere.
There was glass everywhere, and it was really frightening. I don't want to go through it again. Everything was falling, and there was no place to run.
The quake sent people scurrying into the streets as walls shook and buildings swayed several feet. Up to 1 million people are without power. That effectively shut down public transportation. Thousands of people are stranded as most bridges have been closed for inspection. At least 400 people were injured throughout the area. Gas line breaks caused a series of fires. San Francisco Mayor Art Agno says 3 people were killed in a fire in the city's Marina district. In Santa Cruz, at least 6 people were killed when a shopping mall collapsed. Authorities are reportedly using dog teams to search for victims trapped in the rubble. Hospitals are filled with casualties, and most doctors have been called in to treat victims.
What we're seeing is a miscellaneous group of injuries, mostly minor type injuries like fractures and lacerations. We are not seeing big crush injuries or the terrible injuries that we expected from the first reports. I think some of the hospitals in the north part of the city, being very close to the fire and some of the worst of the breaking buildings, got some of the early critical patients.
The quake forced the indefinite postponement of Game 3 of the World Series. Several fans suffered minor injuries. That game won't be rescheduled until a structural inspection is done on Candlestick Park. Although the worst may be over, seismologists say there could be hundreds of aftershocks, with some of those expected to be serious. Joining us now live on the telephone is Todd Zeldin. Mr. Zeldin is a resident of Aptos, California, which is about 10 miles from the epicenter of the quake. Mr. Zeldin, can you tell us how scary an experience it was for you?
Sure. I was in the middle of watching a television program and getting ready to watch the World Series when we heard a big boom and immediately ran for the entrance way for shelter. And was watching literally my entire apartment turn to shambles. It was extremely scary because I heard the glass breaking downstairs and watching my television and computer and books flying all over the place, just trying to maintain my composure and of course making sure that as soon as it was over that everything was okay with the residents in our sixplex.
Well, quakes are a rather common experience in California. Was there any way to know that this one was going to be worse than all the others, that it was going to be this big?
Well, ironically, we usually have what we consider quake weather when we are around here, and it's usually we usually feel as though there's going to be rain or something like that, something out of the ordinary. But it was a beautiful day, maybe a little bit warmer than usual, and there was no prior warning. There was no tremor or little quake that we felt prior to the big movement. And so this evening was unusually warm. But of course, that's the benefit of hindsight. We had absolutely no prior warning.
And I imagine that it's still a little scary for you, knowing that there might be even aftershocks.
I think it's we're all a little gun shy right now, and that we've been feeling shocks anywhere from every 10 or 15 minutes we get a little tremor, and our immediate reaction is to run to the doorway or run outside. The majority of my neighbors are actually sleeping outside in their cars, or they've pitched tents in the parking lots.
Well, we certainly, our prayers are with you. We thank you for being with us. It's a little bit after midnight there, and I hope you don't have too restless a night.
Oh, well,
thank
I
you for joining
appreciate
us.
it. We're without electricity and the water, but I have my guitar to soothe me, and the neighbors seem to come together.
Well, you hang in there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us. Transportation Secretary Samuel Skinner is scheduled to arrive in San Francisco in about 2 hours. Marilyn Quayle, the wife of the Vice President, and 4 members of Congress are going to be with him. The government entourage will provide firsthand information to President Bush about the damage and relief efforts.
Our main concern on behalf of the President and the administration and congressmen that are here and everybody else is to make sure that the humane side of this issue, that human life, everything is being done, and that we are coordinating everything that can be done. We've got a major traffic facility out there, the bridge, that is very vital, and that's very important. But we want to make sure that the human lives are being taken care of, and that people, if they're homeless or they're in any need of anything, that our government can and will respond on a coordinated basis and quickly.
The president had his last briefing of the night a little over 4 hours ago. Officials say he won't declare a federal disaster until a formal request is made by the state. And of course, as you might expect, that's going to happen fairly soon. The California earthquake may further delay today's scheduled launch of the shuttle